Okay, so someone requested in one of my YouTube videos um, for me to show the build, and I got my hardcore necro to 100 on. So here goes. Here goes. Right. Before I start, I just want to preface this video that in no way, shape, or form am I claiming that this build is good. Rather, the only thing I can claim that I came up with it without the use of a guide, and I did so um, rather stubbornly to try and get to 100 without help from people, because that's how I roll. Anyway, without further ado, here goes nothing. First, he said the build and then the items. So we'll start with the build. Right. So before I got this character to 100, it was purely glyphless. I did not use glyphs, but after I did become after I reached 100, I then tried to see if there would be any difference if I added any of the glyphs. So there is a slight change in the build. Like for example, nodes that the magical nodes, such as let me give an example. See this? Usually, I would have selected this instead of going for the glyphs. So all I did to change the build was to remove some of those magical nodes that I thought were not as important, uh, but I still kept the rare node. The only legendary node that I changed, or rather I took the skill points, rather the paragon points from, is this Scent of Death. So I had Scent of Death prior to reaching 100. I used 3 skill points to get there, and I just removed them because I thought Scent of Death would be not as impactful as some of the glyphs that I changed. Strangely enough, though, once I did put the glyphs in, I did not see much of a difference. Maybe because my build is just complete shit. So let's start. So this is the Paragon board. I'm going to try and see if I can maximize it. People can see what it looks like. There we go. So I started off here and use this because this is hardcore, so territorial is kind of important. Then that's my first glyph. The second glyph would be Scourge. So yeah, so I removed some magical nodes so that I could reach this node. I'm pretty sure I had a video that I posted, the reaching 100, that showed the Paragon board without the glyphs. So if you would like, you could just check that out to see what it looked like before I reached 100, or rather at the time of reaching 100. So this is the Paragon board. It's not particularly special. So my idea was to somehow get this particular board where do you see the names of the boards? Okay, so I started with the Golem board. Okay, this is the Golem board, and I did not immediately go for the Hulking Monstrosity legendary node. Instead, I took these nodes, the Frenzied Golem, and then I went here, and then I took the where is it? The Infused Caster. So the logic there was I was using a Shadow Mage build, so I did not need the rest of the nodes. prior to reaching like maybe 70 or 80. So I just took this and then I focused on trying to get to the next board, which is this. This board is important because it gave me Knowing Darkness. That gave 20% damage to affected by shadow damage over time. And it also provides 16% damage bonus to elites. That's additive, but that's fine. It was really helpful. And after I got this, I went to the next board, and this board had a few really important ones like Deathbringer, 50% damage to injured enemies, and provides 100 to my armor, and this 50% damage to healthy enemies, which was originally 25% until I got the dexterity requirement, and I got to this Paragon board. And the important thing about this Paragon board is Flesh Eater. So yeah, before I had Scent of Death, and then Flesh Eater, and I had Stifle. And then after I reached this point, this wasn't even there. Okay, I didn't have this glyph available. I went and immediately went here to the Hulking Monstrosity and infused Golem, which provides a hefty chunk of damage increase to my Golem. After that, I focused on the rest of the minion board. Now, I think I reached this part when I was like maybe 80, 85 level, and then here I managed to fill the required nodes when I was like 90 to 100. So this is the last push. At this point, I already had a lot of the nodes that would help me push. So that's for the Paragon board. Now for the skill tree, I started first with when I began, my idea was to go Shadow because I was going for the Shadow Blight key passive instead of the Kalan's Edict. The reason being, it's useless if I get hit, you know, because it says after you have not taken damage in the last 2 seconds, your minions gain 15% attack speed while you have at least 7 minions. This bonus is doubled, so it's really it's a really good key passive. However, I keep getting hit, especially in hardcore. Rather the higher difficulties, world tier 3 and 4, enemies always have a way to hit me. All enemies always find a way to damage my necro. So I went for Shadow Blight, which is not affected whether or not I get hit. So I went Shadow Blight, and then I went with Sever and Reap, right? But I learned that Sever is really heavy on the resource and rather the essence cost. So I found out that I was like struggling because the rolls on my items did not have much resource management. I always found myself lacking resource. So instead, I just went with Reap, which is good because it provides me with a 15% damage reduction bonus every time I use it, or rather when I hit an enemy. So I also get an enhanced Reap, an Accolade Reap, which can give me a free corpse every 4 seconds. That I hit an enemy. So that is very useful, which will come into play later. So I don't have any. So unlike other builds that I came up with, especially there was one necro that died. I'll show that here. Let's see. I have a lot of fallen necros. I mean, not fallen characters. So this necro had the opposite kind of build. As you can see, I had Blight and no basic skill. So that was a bust. and I wanted to do something different. So I did not have um, I did not have a core skill on my journey from 50, I think, above. And having a basic skill is also very useful when you need to take down barricades, because barricades take a lot of hits, and when you're doing a summon build, you can't target, or rather, it's always difficult to target barricades for some reason. You can't easily tell your summons to, hey, skeleton guys, can you please hit that fucking barricade? So having a basic skill really helps a lot. So that's also one of the things that I found useful with having a basic skill instead of a core skill. It does not rely on essence. Now I also have hued flesh again, which helps a lot in providing me with corpses. Uh, just one level of blood mist is enough. This is basically my oh shit button, or panic button, when I need to get out of a very risky situation. I use blood mist, and immediately using blood mist, I use a scroll of escape. So you can do it with or without death elixir. So you don't necessarily need to use uh, cheat death potions with this build, because um, if you think that you're going to have a hard time, or you think there's a high chance of you dying, just simply pop blood mist and then port out, and then reorganize your thoughts, reorganize, um, resummon more minions, maybe do something else, like reset a different dungeon. So there are many ways to not die with just one level of blood mist. Okay, so basically I'm giving pointers now on how to stay alive in hardcore. Also, I've got skeleton warrior mastery, because this is a necro build, so it's very important to have those. Now this is one of the uh, main skills that the build is very reliant on, which is corpse explosion. So with Shadow Blight, as you can see, every 10th time an enemy receives shadow damage from you or your minions while they are affected by Shadow Blight, they take an additional 2,296 to 2,806 shadow damage. So these all come into play. Now, my Book of the Dead setup is Reapers provide me corpses, and skeletal mages. As Shadow Mage, I went for the Shadow Mage. Shadow Mages fire an additional Shadow Bolt every 4th attack. For Golems, I went with the Iron Golem, provides me vulnerable attack whenever I use his, the Golem skill. Gives me both a stun and turns the enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds, or makes them vulnerable for 3 seconds. So there's a synergy there. So using where was I? Using Blight Corpse Explosion really helps out a lot in fighting more damage. Before, I did not rely on this skill, which was a big mistake, because I thought I could go, with just the so before, okay, I did not have this. Okay, so one of the key things first before I start is that this item also relies, this build also relies on this particular malignant heart, which is this particular one, the brutal heart, that provides you a free decrepify cast, or rather a decrepify aura, when at least 0 enemies are near you. So it's basically always on. I did not have to use this I didn't have to put Decrepify on my skill bars because of this, which really helps out a lot. So before I had Decrepify on my skill bar, and it was really slow. So all I had to do is get this. Decrepified enemies have a 15% chance to reduce my active cooldowns by 1 second every time I hit. Now this is something that a lot of people probably don't know, or maybe it's not that obvious, but the hits of your minion also count in reducing the cooldown. I don't know how I'm gonna demonstrate this. Let me see if there's like an elite mob that I can show this. Let me see. So I'm not casting the Decrepify. There's an aura, as you can see. I'm going to look for an elite mob that will allow me to showcase this particular feature. Maybe I don't need an elite mob. You'll see that. Okay, maybe I do need an elite mob. Oh, great, a quest. I don't need to do that now. Okay, I'll see if I can show it here. So I'm gonna cast the golem skill and the armors, and you can see that I'm not attacking, and then the okay, so that was not successful. I'm gonna need an elite. Yeah, I'm gonna need an elite. They died too quickly. Maybe I'll find an elite here. Okay, so I'm not attacking, right? Look at the cooldown of the bone armor. And if I can find a freaking elite that won't die so quickly. Right. There. Still no elites, so. Oh, elites. I'm pretty sure, like, if I finish this, yeah, there's gonna be an elite. Now watch. Now watch the 10-second cooldown. Wait, did he just die? Well, that was very, yeah. That was not what I expected. Okay, I think I'm gonna use the blood mist because those two skills instantly kill the enemy. So let's see. Oh, they just died too quickly. Oh dear. Come on, cool down, go down. Oh, there, you saw that? It went at 5-4. Yeah, that's what I meant. So yeah, it's 15%, so it's not a lot, but trust me, when there are like a lot of enemies on screen, that does happen quite a lot, especially in nightmare dungeons. So again, let's try. Yeah, they just died too quickly, so this is not really a good place to test it out. Well, it actually proc there like twice, but it wasn't that obvious. It's more obvious when I use bone armor, because the bone armor and the minions really really help that decrepify bonus, that decrepify effect happens. So enough of that. I'm going off topic here. All right, so. Let's see, where were we? Right, so basically the build revolves around Decrepify, spamming the golem stun, and rinsing and repeating. Oh, by the way, the corpse explosion. Those also proc the decrepify cooldown reduction. So all of those, all in all, basically really lowers down the cooldown reduction, negating the need of having cooldown reduction on my gear. So that's something. Actually, you can see this in in the video that I got to 100, because I was in a nightmare dungeon. So you can see the effect of the cooldowns going down really quickly. So I don't have to like show it here. Okay, now here we go. Let's move on. Right. So corpse explosion, um, the shadow version of that. Decrepify, the reduced cooldown version of that. Skeletal mage mastery, a lot of the darkness auras, especially terror and gloom. So when you damage enemies with darkness skills, they take 6% increased shadow damage from you and your minions, which is really a lot because I'm using shadow mages. And terror, excuse me a bit. Darkness skills deal 9% bonus damage to enemies who are slowed. Oh wait, where was I? Were slowed, and 9% bonus damage to enemies who are stunned or immobilized. So this is useful whenever the Decrepify aura affects enemies or when my golem stuns the enemies. Now again, I'm using a necro build, so all of this is important. And last but not least, Bone Storm, which is just really good, especially when we're talking about hardcore, because of the damage reduction aspect of the skill, and Supreme Bone Storm, which increases my critical strike chance. So again, Shadow Blight, and that's it. That's for my skill tree. And I think I'm done with my Paragon board as well. So now let's go to my items. As you can see, I've got maximum life on almost all my gear, bar except for my amulet, which I could never find one that provided the one. I'm pretty sure I found one before, but then at later levels it became rarer and rarer to find an amulet that had health on it. So my rings have maximum life as well as maximum minion life, which really helps out with the survivability of my minions. Let's go over the aspect on my helmet. Again, disobedience. For my armor, I've got the immunity bubble aspect, which really helps out a lot as well. To make sure I don't die immediately to those insta pop, rather the large bursts of damage that enemies tend to do, especially in higher tier dungeons. And so for my gloves, I've got critical strike chance, strength that provides armor, all stats, and intelligence. So I really prioritized here armor, as you will notice. So if I get strength, then I'm going for that. If I get all stats, then I'm going for that as well. Here I also have strength in my boots, 6.5% plus chance, because I needed the armor. For my pants, this is a very important aspect here. Each time that Bone Storm damages an enemy, gain a barrier equal to 5% of your base life for 10 seconds. So this is like one of the most important aspects on this build. It allows me to like go ham on a lot of enemies in higher tier dungeons. It basically makes me invincible to a lot of enemies, because Bone Storm always provides me with a barrier, and because of my cooldown reduction technique from the Decrepify, I almost always have Bone Storm up. So this is very important. Now here I've got this is a season exclusive aspect. when there are at least 5 close enemies, stun them for 4 seconds. Before, I was using the aspect that allowed me to turn unstoppable every time I reach the injured health status. But then I realized that I have blood mist anyway, so I replaced that with this, and this has also helped me a ton, getting to 100. Now this is also a very important key aspect. First, let's go over my stats for my weapon. So then the necro minions, or rather the minions stats, are reliant on your stats when it comes to damage. So if you have high intelligence, high damage stats, you will also do a lot of damage. That's why I went for intelligence and stats. And damage to crowd controlled enemies, because I'm always having Decrepify on. And yeah, when the enemies get stunned, so they also get the damage bonus. Critical strike damage, that's just an added bonus. I personally would have gone with damage to slowed, but it did not have that. And this is a really good roll in terms of the item power, 816. So basically this carried me all the way to 100. So you deal 226%. I would have preferred the 240%, but I ended up using those aspects before I found this item. So I was unlucky I couldn't get another 240%, but that's fine. I got what I needed to do. I mean, I achieved what I needed to achieve, so I'm fine with it staying at 226%. So as you can see, increased damage for 6 seconds after the Shadow Blight key passive damages enemies 10 times. So everything from the shadow damage of your mages, your corpse explosion shadow version damage, as well as the bone storm, because on my rings I've got this bone storm and blood wave are also darkness skills that deal shadow damage and gain additional effects. So basically this turns my bone storm into a shadow damage skill, which also helps in proccing this aspect. Once this aspect is procced, expect the entire screen to basically just explode with a ton of damage numbers. So very important aspect. I went with 200 again because that's the highest. Basically it doubles the aspect effect, and it also gives a lot of stats in terms of intelligence and all stats. So I went with a 200 sword. All right, and amulet, I've got increased to my skeletal mages. So on the amulet you get a 50% bonus to your aspects. So basically I get 3 here, while on my gloves I get 2 additional skeletal warriors. So really helpful for my skeleton build. Lastly, on my other ring, I've got Bone Storm consumes up to 8 corpses to increase its duration by up to 10 seconds. Again, they all basically help each other out in keeping me alive. Bone Storm especially really helpful because of the barrier aspect that I've got, and it also helps me in terms of damage because it gives me the critical chance. The Bone Storm effect itself also has shadow damage, so proc shadow blight. So all of that really what's the word? All of the aspects and items that I've got combine well, or they factor well into achieving what I need for it to achieve, which is basically getting myself to 100. So this is not a build that I'm going to recommend when you want to do higher tier dungeons. I think the highest that I could do without dying would be tier 50. I think that's the highest that I could do with this, and definitely not one that you should do Lilith with. However, having 100 character with this particular build will make sure that you have no problems when it comes to health tides. Uh, so health tides definitely easy with this build. Whether you wanna go for the safer route and just go with Nightmare or Torment, doesn't matter. It's a really good health tides build. Most level 100 builds are. So for the hearts, I'm using the caged beast that gives me a ton of damage for my minions because I'm not using any spender. I'm not using any resource spender. Decrepify is essentially an auto cast without using spenders, so I'm having this aspect because of that. Before I was using Barber, which right now I'm thinking would have been better. But I'm basically saving Barber for a different build on a different character. If I decide to get another character to 100 and try to push for higher tier dungeons. But for now, I'm happy with the hearts that I've got. The second heart is this: critical strikes electrically charge the enemy for 5 seconds, causing lightning to arc between them and any other charged enemies, dealing 635 lightning damage. So the roll on the damage is not a lot, but it does proc. I mean, sorry, it does proc a lot whenever I fight a ton of high density mobs whenever I'm in dungeons. And I think I've already mentioned the other heart, which is the Decrepify aura. I went with the health because I did not go for any health on my Paragon boards. The other nodes that provide health, I did not go for them. I think there was one here. Let me see. Yeah, here, see? Maximum life node. So I went with like health, rather the jewels that provide me with health, the red ones, the rubies. As you can see, I reached 14,794 at level 100, so that's way more than I started out with, let me tell you. And the critical strike damage to crowd controlled enemies. And there we go, that's my entire build. Hopefully this helps out anyone that would have been interested in knowing what I did in getting to 100. Although I really do recommend just going to Maxroll, that website, and getting better build for yourself. Okay. And there we have it. That's all, I think. Is there anything else I'm missing? Paragon boards, Book of the Dead, characters. The consumables. Now, because you are a summon build necro, you typically don't need to rely on stuff like undead slaying, critical strike damage. You need to survive. So if you're dead, your summons don't matter. If you're dead, it's pointless to have even summons. So you need to stay alive. The elixirs that I would recommend would be the Iron Skin elixirs, or the Fortitude elixir of Fortitude that provides you with a bit of health. Your incense, it can be the incense that provides with more HP, or the one that provides more intelligence that will help you gain more damage to your minions. So that's it. So I think that's all. Yep. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, make sure you leave a comment and like. Of course not, I don't really care whether or not you leave a comment or like. I'm just doing this for fun, if you can call this fun. And yeah, be seeing you on my next video, where I usually don't speak. So yeah, that's it. Bye. How the fuck do I stop this?